Here we are, Mercury Cazimi. This is when Mercury is joining the sun while retrograde at this time. And it's like Mercury is moving through the heart of the sun to get this beautiful rebirth, beautiful renewal. I don't know where you are joining from. Like, are you in the middle of your work day? That's kind of what I'm doing. I'm just breaking up my work day to come and hang out with you all. Or are you, hanging out? Are you driving? What are you doing? In the vein of Virgo, I'm hoping to make this a little bit more tactile. So if you are in a safe enough space to do this, I brought both a golf ball and a tiny little bouncy ball and somewhere to sit and maybe a journal, something to do some writing. And most importantly, open heart, open mind. So you can also go back and rewatch this too later. But if you'd want to actually work with me and actually do some processes with me, it's actually going to start right away with just doing about a 2-minute brain dump. If you've ever done anything like morning pages in the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, I believe, this is basically just getting it all out on paper, good, bad, something causing anxiety, something that you're celebrating, whatever it is. There's absolutely no judgment, no worry, but just to write down what's happening, because ultimately Mercury is the communicator. Mercury is the scribe. He's also the one who is the initiator. And so much of our initiation happens through our words and what we admit to ourselves. And it's almost like right now with Mercury passing through the heart of the sun, we get this beautiful clarity, this beautiful moment of translucence, of coming to the point, coming to the center. It's also in Virgo, so we can actually come to some potent detail. We can come to some potent embodiment. And so just give you about a minute to just write down anything that's coming through for you, kind of like in a stream of consciousness, stream of thoughts. And you can also use this time if you have any questions about how Mercury Cazimi or Mercury retrograde in general, how that works, what is the astrology behind that. If you have any sort of personal questions, this can also be a really nice time to be with that too. Hey, Johnny. Seeing lots of people that I know here. So we're just starting out with some brain dumping, getting some words out onto the paper, tuning in with what is present for you right now, what's on your mind, what's also on your heart. This is a beautiful day for joining mind and heart. It doesn't have to be full sentences. It can be bullet points. It can be even if you're on your phone, because actually one of the power objects of Mercury is the phone. So make some notes. Top question for you. What is on your heart? What is in your body? What is in your mind? And how are all of these different parts of you communicating with each other? What are they all trying to say? Maybe they're all saying something different. Are you noticing that? Do you have mind saying something like, oh, I should have a very specific thought right now, or I should know more? Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you're exactly where you need to be. Maybe you're not feeling very much and you're just here to observe and see what I'm doing right now. And that's cool too. And if you have any words or anything coming up, definitely feel free to share it in the chat, or if you're watching on the replay, let me know in the comments. And what's been coming up for me a lot is all of the different ways of knowing and how they are all coming together in a new way right now. We have a lot of transits that are pointing us inward. So not only are we in a Mercury retrograde season, but we also have Jupiter retrograde, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto. Did I say Chiron? We have all of the planets that can be retrograde except for Mars retrograde, Venus only just station direct. So she's even still in her post-retrograde shadow phase. And if there's one word to say about retrograde, it's reflection. And so maybe more words come up for you while I'm talking. Maybe there's more that kind of gets activated and opened for you. But just tuning into this reflection, what have been some of your biggest insights, some of the biggest energies, some of the most important takeaways for this month? And I pulled a couple cards. So Queen of Cups, she came in for everybody. And then also Six of Swords. This is a really interesting combination. I asked them in terms of conscious and unconscious. So the Queen of Cups coming through in the conscious realm is saying we have this beautiful opportunity to do some conscious emotional processing. We can be consciously using this Mercury Cazimi for restoring, for going back into the past and remembering, reimagining, maybe even viscerally reliving, getting to that point of catharsis where we can feel something real. And then coming into that point of mastery, she's looking at her goblet. It's very ornate. She has mastered something about the vessel of being able to hold it and then being able to use it, being able to put it somewhere. And so in the conscious realm, we can really be using the power of our emotional intelligence to really guide us through Mercury's Cazimi, Mercury's heart of the sun passage. And then in the unconscious realm, we have the Six of Swords, which you can see is a woman and her child moving forward in a boat, being steered by this lovely oarsman and coming away from choppy water, moving towards clear water. And it's all connected to mindset with these swords. It's all connected to a brighter future, all connected to what do you want to create more of? And this really leads us into a central energy of Mercury as magician. Mercury is the one who reminds us that thoughts become things. He reminds us that it's basically what we decide to focus on that we are going to continue to create. And of course, there's things that we can't control. Of course, there's other people, right? And there's other happenings. But there's this invitation to come back continuously to what is in my influence. What can I influence with my thoughts and my words? And most importantly, how am I influencing my experience based on my words to myself? Virgo is one of Mercury's ruling signs. And when Mercury is retrograde in Virgo, it's kind of like cutting to the depth of our inner self-talk. And we can actually come to this lucidity of, oh, I've been talking to myself this way for a long time. And how has it served me? And how has it not served me? That might be a really good question for you to just sit with. Are there any repeating thoughts? Maybe things that have been coming up more and more over the past couple weeks while Mercury has been retrograde that are inviting you to look at your thoughts a little differently. If you changed your thoughts, how might your life change? If you change your inner self-talk, how might your life change? Mary is saying that this Cazimi is in her 9th house and in direct opposition to her natal Mercury in Pisces, which feels important. That's huge, Mary. And I absolutely agree. You actually bring up something really important that whenever we're working with a Mercury retrograde or any planet that is retrograde, we also want to bring in the sign that's opposite. So we're working with a whole axis. And the medicine that sometimes we need when working with Virgo, because if you think about Virgo, it's like, what is the most excellent? I want to make this the best I can possibly make it. I want to get to my expression of perfection, whatever that means, whatever that looks like. And sometimes we just want to know. We want to have all the answers. We want to know the strategy. We want to know the plan of how to get there. We want to know what it is that I have to do to create this life that I want, right? But Pisces is on the other hand saying, and what do you have faith in? And what are you trusting? And what is this transcendent vision that is actually holding you? What is this story that you're actually a part of that is much bigger than you and your details? That is much bigger than maybe you and your, lower S self strategy. And so if we actually pull in, that's such a great example, Mary, because we also have Saturn retrograde in Pisces. And so the Saturn retrograde is kind of reflecting with this Mercury retrograde in Virgo. Between Virgo Pisces, we're kind of being ping-ponged a little bit between detail orientation, personal strategy, and plan on one side, and then completely letting go and going with the flow and being in faith and being in surrender. And how do we find the balance between that? What's the synthesis there? Rachel says this Cazimi is in her 12th house, and transit Saturn is conjunct her natal Jupiter, which is conjunct natal Mercury in Pisces in the 6th house. Wow. So you've actually got this beautiful 6th house, 12th house axis thing going on in addition to the Virgo Pisces. And so all of us, will have Virgo and Pisces in our chart somewhere. So even if you don't have any planets in Virgo, and so say maybe this 13 degrees Virgo Mercury Cazimi isn't hitting on something specifically related to you personally, you'll still have this lighting up something in your chart. We'll all have a story, some sort of relationship with 13 degrees Virgo. And you could even say, 3 degrees before, 3 degrees after for this exact conjunction with the sun. But really, the Cazimi is any time that you have Mercury within 1 degree of the sun, and it's a little bit different than 10 degrees away. It's going to have a different energy. It's almost like you're cutting straight through to the center, straight into the heart, and you're no longer under the beams of the sun, which can sometimes feel like you're getting burned up. But it's almost like you're kind of like in the eye of the storm. Or if you've ever looked into a flame, you can see like there's a part of the flame that's invisible, right? And then there's the flame that's around the flame, but it's like we're in that invisible part of the fire right now, where there's more access to spirit, more access to the etheric realms. And bringing it into our body. So any sort of transit happening to any part of your chart is actually inviting more of that etheric energy into your life, that soul meets body kind of energy, wherever you have 13 degrees Virgo. And so to have Saturn or Jupiter also involved, Rachel, is going to bring up a lot of energy around your beliefs with Jupiter and your structures with Saturn. And if you think about what's happening with transiting Saturn in Pisces right now, there's so much about our structures that is being refined, almost eroded. If we think of Saturn underwater, it's like trying to give form to what is formless, trying to give form to what is sometimes unknowable, trying to give form to the mystery. And so then there's this Mercury retrograde on the other side that might also be trying to really really tap into that mystery. So it can be a very spiritual time. But I think with the Mercury in Virgo, it's this opportunity to bring that sacred into the ordinary, which is also very 6th house. So maybe you're feeling that, Rachel. I'd love to hear it in your words. Let's look over here. So indigo, intuitive. I love that. It's a squaring of 13 degrees midheaven in Sag for you in the 7th. So I wonder what's happening. Yeah, definitely in partnership conversations, but how that's coming through for you in work, contribution, career, your vision that you're putting out into the world. All of that's a very strong square. I would definitely be, doing some deep writing about that if you can make space for that, especially if you have to have a challenging partnership conversation. How can you maybe do some writing before you talk to them? Be very clear on what's happening for you in this experience. Like, what new lucidity are you coming to? It's almost like when you're lucid dreaming, and so you're asleep, you're dreaming, but you're kind of like awake in your dream, and therefore you can influence what happens next. I've done some work with lucid dreaming, and I will ask my guides to help me in the dream to help me figure out whatever's happening. So say I need to like fly away from a monster, I will like call on my guides in the dream to remind me how to fly in my dream. This is kind of going way on a tangent. But anyways, you can do so much in that lucid state where you realize that you have influence and control based on your prayers, based on your words. And I feel that this time right now, you could actually go into that sacred quiet space, do some deep writing with yourself, almost have the conversation that what is it that you need to say for yourself before you have the conversation with your partner. That would go for anybody who's having this Mercury Cazimi in their 7th house. And it's like a new beginning. This is like the new part of the Mercury cycle that we'll be working with for the next few months. And there are new thought forms being seeded. We won't fully know the full effect of them for another couple months when we see the Mercury superior conjunction. But we're already starting to receive those seeds. Like something is very literally coming into your body, this new way of thinking. Hopefully it's feeling optimistic. I'm going to read the rest of those comments in a moment, but something around the Mercury trine Jupiter feels really important to say here, because right now Mercury retrograde is trine Jupiter retrograde. And Jupiter is higher self aspirations, higher mind, faith, optimism. And sometimes a trine can kind of pass us by. Like it's this easeful energy that we almost take it for granted, but we can use it knowingly, intentionally, on purpose. Hello, thanks for joining in. We can use this Mercury Jupiter trine, both retrograde, to actually slow down, go back, restory things according to our preference, according to what it would actually be most helpful for us in the now moment. And then bring that restoried energy, that empowered energy, that optimistic, rooted in faith energy to our conversations, and watch how that creates an entirely different experience relationally, an entirely different experience in all of our reality. So that is very much an opportunity. It's very much a thoughts become things kind of day. Okay. Nicole is saying she has the Mercury Cazimi in her 11th house, trine natal Mercury. Beautiful. And that's with the sun transiting Jupiter in the 7th, trine natal Neptune in the 3rd, creating a grand trine. Wow. Yeah, I can imagine you're feeling a pretty big shift there. So having Mercury passing over all of these points and sort of activating everything by trine, that anytime we're working with a trine, we want to pay attention. We don't want it to pass us by, but we also don't have to be like obsessive about it, thinking that there's only one right way to use it. What I actually sense about these transits right now is because they're all in earth signs, we're receiving the message in our body. We're receiving it in our senses. We're receiving it in our feminine ways of knowing. Because both Mercury and Jupiter are in feminine signs, feminine earth signs. So there's something in the body that needs to receive the message. And it might require us to slow down a little bit. Sometimes that's the hardest part when it comes to a retrograde season. It's like, we don't really want to slow down. We can feel the new thing coming in. So we just want to start taking action on it. We want to start, initiating all of the things. But what if, you just needed that energy to initiate you, to get you excited about taking the small steps, and maybe you're not at the finish line yet. So I think that this whole retrograde period is an invitation into slowing down so you can actually feel what's going on in your body. I love all of these shares. Let's look over here. Naomi has Mercury square her Saturn in Gemini. Anytime I'm connecting with Gemini, I'm thinking of cross-pollination. So I wonder if there's something coming in for you right now, Naomi, around connecting with maybe some greater detail of something with this 13 degrees Virgo Mercury Cazimi, but then it's bringing you into a new way to synthesize, or a new way to cross-pollinate between different ways of knowing. I always think relativity of truth, but then creating structure around that is still very safe with Saturn and Gemini. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Radiant Mama Inspired Life, hell yeah, has Jupiter at 0 degrees Virgo and Saturn at 21 degrees Virgo, both in the 4th house. Beautiful. So you're kind of feeling this Mercury retrograde all the way through. Actually, Mercury would have stationed retrograde right on your Saturn at 21 degrees Virgo. And so Saturn is really important for you right now, Radiant Mama, because there's a new thought form wanting to come in around how you're structuring your reality. And especially in the fourth house, that's your root. That's what helps you to feel safe. That's what helps you. I'm imagining that you're a mama, right? Like to be able to create a support for the people or the beings that you are taking care of. But there's something maybe about the strategy or about the plan that is getting to be tweaked slightly, maybe with higher luminescence, more light. I think we are gifted this opportunity to let in more life and more light into our mind so that we're not sort of stuck in these rigid thought forms. But in order to do that, this is why, doing brain dumps and automatic writing is so important, because we got to get it out. Like, especially during a retrograde season, you might notice that certain thoughts will just sort of ricochet around your mind until you engage with them, because some element of them wants to be restored. Some element of these repeating thoughts wants to be coming to your attention on purpose. It's not a random memory. You're not remembering something random that has nothing to do with your life. It has so much to do with your life right now that it makes sense to focus on it. Okay. Create More Freedom says, my husband has 13 degrees Uranus and 14 degrees Pluto and 15 degrees all in Virgo. Oh yeah. So they are also very much getting this nice awakening with Uranus, this maybe kind of going through a death and rebirth with Pluto. And especially in Virgo, it's this relinquishing of the grip on the human level plan. This is what I love so much about Virgo. I have a Virgoan moon husband, and I am so grateful for him. He does all of the trip planning. He finds all the hotels. He finds all the places that we're going to go eat. It's actually amazing. It's really helpful for me. I've got lots of Sagittarius, and detail isn't always my strong suit, and it's just not as fun for me. So I'm so grateful for him. But I think it's sometimes when we're working with the highest essence of Virgo, because we want to make the plan, and we want to have that strategy, but we also want to leave enough space, like build into the plan space and flexibility to change the plan. That's, I think, the highest wisdom of using Virgo for strategy, because having the strategy can give us momentum. It can help us to leave the front door. It can help us to go do the thing and start to take some action. But if we become too attached to it, too rigid to it, now we start to create this story that this is the only way that I can have what I want. This is the only way that I can have this experience. Well, what if there was something else, on the other side, in the unknown, that we didn't know was coming around the corner for us? And that's Pisces. And that's also the retrograde energy reflecting the energy of Virgo from Pisces to give us a little bit more of that, that perspective. Yes, so many beautiful things. Okay, so Patty is asking, what is the minute of the Cazimi at the 13th degree? So it actually happened earlier this morning, and I'm actually, bear with me as I do some of my homework in front of you all to get you to the exact minute. It's at 13 degrees, 36 minutes of Virgo, and it happened around 4 a.m. this morning. So we're technically already on the other side. We are in the new phase now. You might liken this energy that we're experiencing with the Mercury Cazimi as very similar to a new moon, in that it's, okay, the thing has been seeded, but we don't really know exactly what that's going to mean, exactly what that's going to manifest as. But we can already start to be putting in conscious energy, conscious intention around what we would like to invite in, what we would like to use this energy toward. Hello, hello. It's so good to be here with all of you. Starflower says, I have been telling myself I love you before sleep and first thing in the morning. Amazing. Yes. Self-love is priority. Absolutely. It totally is. We absolutely have to fill up our cup first. And if we think about Virgo, it's connected to the Virgin, the one who keeps the temple clean and organized so that we can come to the altar of our lives with this sense of purity, with this sense of devotion, and really making it sacred. So if we have to start with ourselves. I also think that's this message of the retrograde. Maybe it's not so much about looking out and seeing what outside of us needs to be cleaned, fixed, improved. Maybe this is one of those times where it's really about us and about what we're feeling and about the clearing away of the cobwebs of the inner temple. I'm kind of doing this thing with my hands because I feel like that does something for me in my energy field. I kind of, imagine it sweeping out. Oh my gosh, look at this beautiful owl feather. My daughter found it when we were hanging out at a park in Canada, because I got to go there and travel back to my hometown for a wedding, which is really cool, very Venus retrograde through my 4th and 5th house, really returning to my place of origin in Southern Ontario. And she found this feather next to a tree, and just feels really special because I also saw an owl flying, not at the same time, but a different day, a couple days before, right after I had come back from this shamanic drum circle. And I've also been seeing a lot of falcons, and falcon has also been a beautiful spirit guide that I've been working with a lot. And so both of these feather spirits coming to me over and over again, I think this has a lot to do with this restoring element. And I see both of these powerful birds as this reminder that what is to be found right now is very much found within. It is found in our quiet contemplation. It's found in our connection with our own spirit guides. And so that's something that I'd love to invite you all into. I know, isn't that feather amazing? And I'm just so happy. I'm like, yes, daughter, go run and play and do the things we're like trying to go somewhere. She's like, wait, let's look at this feather. I'm like, perfect. You're finding all of the things that if I was too rigidly stuck to the plan and being neat and organized, what we should be doing, we wouldn't have found it. And she really holds down that Pisces energy of going with the flow so magnificently. Yes. So absolutely, Norkio, I hope I'm saying that right. Cleansing our bodies. Yes, we can. Oregano oil, I think, does have strong affinity with Virgo, but also less is more in general, because there's a cleansing out wanting to happen so that we can really reset and be clear and clean for the next cycle, for all of the next iterations of our creative cycle wanting to come in right now. So we want to be clean and clear and give and release the burden on our bodies. So drinking more water, even fasting, if that's your vibe, if that's where you're at with your health and with your journey. Okay, so a life in peace, it says, I'm a really new learner. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Does this apply to people in different locations? I'm in the UK. Please excuse my lack of knowledge. No excuse needed at all. Your question is perfectly valid, and thank you for asking. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. Yes, this transit applies everywhere. The time that I gave for it happening at 4 a.m., that's specific to where I'm at in Arizona. But right now it's 11:41 a.m. So just, kind of doing the math for you for where you're at. But the beautiful thing about astrology is that these transits are happening to the whole Earth. The only difference is the time that they're happening. And that's also going to maybe influence some things. Is it happening at day or night? Is it more going into your daytime consciousness, or is it more going into your nighttime consciousness? That's a whole other conversation. But yes, long story short, these transits are happening for everybody. And it goes back to something that I said earlier. Even if you don't have any planets in Virgo, you'll have 13 degrees of Virgo in your chart somewhere. And so that's the focal point for today. But I would also include around that degree of any of the earth signs. So if you have anything around, maybe 10 to 20 degrees or 8 to 21 degrees of Taurus and Capricorn, those are also illuminated parts of your chart for this Mercury Cazimi time, but also this whole Mercury retrograde, because between 8 and 21 degrees are where Mercury has been retrograding. And 13 degrees, the reason this is important is because the Mercury retrograde is conjunct the sun. So this is called an inferior conjunction because Mercury is closer to the earth. Because Mercury can be conjunct the sun either farther away from earth, which is the superior conjunction, and that has its own sort of meaning and significance, or Mercury can be conjunct the sun closest to Earth. So right now, Mercury is closest to Earth, meaning our ability to really receive this wisdom or receive this new thought form is actually closest to Earth right now, meaning it's closest to our bodies. It's very accessible. It's very practical and it's very rooted. And so that's really my intention in doing this pop-up live today, was to kind of bring all of this Mercury Cazimi into something rooted. So in that vein, there's a million more things to say. And if you have any questions, definitely type them into the chat and, talk to each other. It's not all just about me here. But if you can, and you're not driving, and you're not, in a cubicle or something where this would be really awkward. If you can find a comfortable seat, either all the way on the ground or on a cushion. I'm kind of sitting on a little chair that my husband always worries I'm going to buy another one when he's gone. But just finding a comfortable seat, tall spine. Inhale and lift your shoulders up to the ears. Roll down the back. Exhale, let something go. Deep breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just keep breathing like that. I've been sort of packing your suitcase with a lot of ideas, a lot of information about this Mercury Cazimi. But now you can let go of any holding to that. You can rewatch this later if there's something that was really important for you to hear again. But ultimately, just trust that your body will pick up the information that you need most at this time. And so just giving some space for your body to integrate and for your body to receive. What is here for you in this moment? Maybe you start to take some conscious movement. So we inhale, opening up the heart, really arching the spine, lifting the gaze up to the ceiling, and then exhale, curling everything in. And as we start to find this rhythm and this movement here, maybe you start to notice more rhythm and movement in your thoughts. Maybe you start to feel into the parallel of movement and thought energy. Virgo has strong affinity with the intestines and the organs of assimilation. And so even just doing these simple movements is starting to get some things moving, some detoxification, so that we can come into greater clarity, greater purity, really sweeping the temple of our bodies clean. And then maybe we start to make some circles. So heart comes forward and then rolls, almost like you could imagine you're scooping out a barrel of ice cream with your torso here. So making these big circles, maybe stopping in any place that feels really juicy. Or maybe there's a story somewhere like, oh yeah, I feel that when I tried to do a back bend, not so warmed up the other day. Interesting. Maybe do I get to tell a new story about my body or a new story about my health? Maybe do I get to remember quite literally that my body is a sacred temple and that connecting with my body can be very simple, and it can be the ultimate way to reset in mind and heart as well. It's like when we do one thing on one level, we're actually supporting everything else on another level. They work together. So if you tend to be more in your head, like a lot of us who come to astrology, I think we are, right? We want to know the answer. We want to know what's happening, what's coming next. But it's these simple things about getting into our body, coming back into the present moment, honoring our yin ways of knowing, which come through the body. They come more subtly. They come in the silence, as Owl would remind us. And then just go ahead and shake some of that out. And those of you who saw my email that I sent, and so if you're not on my email list, you'll want to get on there so you can learn more about these pop-up things that I'm doing in advance. You can get onto my email list at nurarochelle.com. And I also have a free Cosmic Creativity Guides course that you would absolutely love. So I think I'm going to go first with the big ball here. And I'm just going to bring it to the bottom of my foot on the ground. And the reason for this, I have a very clear reason. It's very intentional. I'm going to sit here holding up my hands and my feet for a minute. Our feet are a map of our body, if you've ever learned reflexology. And the feet are represented by Pisces. I'm going to try to come into the screen so people on YouTube can see me. So with the Virgo retrograde, the Mercury retrograde in Virgo, that's really ruling the hands. Hands become important. We use our hands when we're writing. Some of us use our hands when we're talking. Some of us maybe are using our hands to clear out our energy fields. But we can also pay attention to the soles of the feet for the integration of all of this, for this remembrance that we have this whole map of our whole body on the bottom of our feet. And sometimes it's as simple as putting a little bit of weight, a little bit of pressure on the bottom of our feet to help release and integrate things. So you can see this. I know you can see this on the Instagram, sorry, YouTube. But I'm just sort of running the golf ball along the central line of the bottom of my foot. You could also do this with a tiny bouncy ball. If you had a strong crystal that's a ball, you could also do that. Or you could just be sitting here giving yourself a nice foot massage. I had a friend who did reflexology, and she basically told me that you just want to make sure you touch every part of the whole of the bottom of your feet every day, including all of the crevices between the toes and things like that. So finding any spots on the bottom of your feet that are very tender. And if you find one of those tender spots, taking a deep inhale and open mouth exhale. Yes. We are remembering we are in bodies and that everything that we are experiencing on earth requires a body. So we want to take good care of our bodies. And just feeling if there's any spots. I'm not an absolute expert at reflexology, but I do have some things that I remember from when I took my yoga teacher training. And so in all of this, we could think about the top of our foot as connecting closer with the head. This nice padding spot is like the lungs. This center of the foot is like the inner organs and the intestines. And then the bottom of the foot is kind of like the base of our spine. And so connecting with any part of our feet that either feels just like it's calling to you, needing some attention. You can usually tell if it's a little bit tender, and it could give you some information like, oh, something's tender in the center of my foot. How's my digestion? And of course, same thing, other foot. So I'm going to do the same thing with my golf ball on the other foot. And just tuning in with all that comes up, doing something like this and kind of integrating all of the mental story, all of the thoughts, all of the questions. Maybe tapping on our heart a little bit while we do this. And just asking for Mercury. That's right, we're talking to Mercury specifically. Wherever Mercury is. Well, if you are in the daylight and you see the sun outside, you could look at the sun and Mercury's right there, right? If it's nighttime where you are, you can imagine where the sun is, or if the sun is setting, maybe if you're in Europe, I think maybe about 8 hours beyond where I am. Maybe it's, sun setting, but wherever the sun is, Mercury is there right now. So looking towards the sun maybe, or just consciously tapping into that. Mercury, what is the message that you have for me right now? For me, that message has been consistently to slow down. That is a huge message that I'm getting over and over and over again. Like that there's no point in rushing to get to the bus stop to have to wait 30 minutes. What if we could just get there right on time? And what if having the plan was something that I just needed to get moving, something that I just needed to be able to get out the door, something that I needed for my ego, for my mind to trust that I had some idea about what I was doing, right? I have a plan that makes me feel safe. I could trust that I have some sort of direction. But then it's almost like you have the plan and then you let it go. And as we're doing these physical movements and releasing something in our body, just know that there's also old thought forms being released, making space for the new thought forms to come in. Deep breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Now, at the beginning of this, some of you might have joined a little bit later, but at the beginning, I had you do just like 2 quick minutes of tuning into what were the words and ideas and thoughts coming up for you around this Mercury Cazimi. And it might have been, I know for me, it was a little bit more sporadic. It was like, I don't really know. My mind's not holding on to anything right now. And I'm also, in a different kind of space facilitating this. But sometimes when I try to be too in my mind, to think I have to write something really specific, like I want to get the right answer. I was always a good student wanting to get the right answer. So after we move our body, get more into our body, hopefully you can feel that this attachment to getting the right answer goes away a little bit, right? And we can just be with the answers as they want to be shown to us right now. So in these final few minutes together, I just want to ask you where, go into your body. Where is this Mercury Cazimi? Where is this energy in your body? That's number 1. Where are you feeling it the most in this moment? You might want to come back to this question over and over again today. But where are you feeling this new thought form being birthed from within your body? And where are you being led within yourself for guidance? So where is this Mercury Cazimi in your body? Where are you being led within for guidance? Another way to phrase that same question. Where do you already have the answer for whatever it is that you're seeking right now? And if anybody wants to share what comes up for them there. No rush. I know for me, my thing that comes up is I trust I will always know what to say when I slow down to feel what my body wants me to say. So in that sense, my body already knows what needs to be communicated. I'm one to try to plan a lot, plan what I'm going to say, plan how I'm going to show up, but there's a very different frequency of what comes through when I allow myself to slow down and essentially let my body be a channel for my higher self, for my guides, for wisdom to speak through me. And so what might that be for you? Coming from that question, where is this Mercury Cazimi wisdom coming into your body? And where are you being led within yourself for guidance? Another question, and I asked this in the email, what celestial and or earthly support do you require at this time? What do you require for your reset? Maybe it's as simple as believing that you're going through a reset. Maybe it's as simple as, just hearing this information and letting that be reset enough. Maybe there's not some big grand answer, but just let it come to you. What celestial and or earthly support do you require in this reset? Is the support you need something like time and space to give yourself the room to figure things out as they are coming to you naturally? Do you need more foot soaks? We could probably all use some more foot soaks. Is it a friend? Is it more journaling time? This is a good one. Is it a new way of asking for what you need from others? A new way of asking questions? A new way of making your needs known? Because that could very much be what this Virgo Mercury Cazimi is inviting, like new ways to take care of ourselves that are very thoughtful, very oriented in conscious conversation, conscious relating. Yeah, I love that. New ways to ask questions, because you could have the same desire to know something, but the way you ask a question will absolutely shape the way you receive the answer. So, is there a new way that you get to ask a question? Maybe also to a new person, maybe also to yourself. And lastly, what do you get to do for yourself today? That hopefully is an easy one. What does this short time that we're spending together, it's been, well, almost 45, 46 minutes. What has this inspired you to do for yourself today? What new way of strategizing, new way of planning is maybe being dropped into your awareness right now? And how do you get to love yourself more? What do you get to do for yourself today? I love this. Rachel says, through the body movement we just did, I realized I needed more physical connection with my body. I have been so in my head and my body has been so fatigued. Yeah, I think that a lot of people can resonate with that, Rachel. I know that for sure that's true for me. And I'm a Taurus rising and I try to live in my body as much as I can, but I think it's just part of our social conditioning and our socialization that we're supposed to be going all the time, and that this feminine way of knowing, this way of just being in our bodies, is so undervalued, and it's not something that we're necessarily taught, although I think it's changing a lot. But this is part of our empowerment, right? Like maybe we weren't given it before by somebody else, but we can always give it to ourselves now. I think that's a big part of coming to empowerment, releasing any form of victim consciousness around it. It's a collective thing. I mean, one of the shadows of Virgo is the victim consciousness, like, oh, I never have enough time, or I never have enough money because I have to work all day, or whatever it is, like we can always make space and time for our bodies, for, a couple minutes of journaling, for self-study, whatever it is, for self-love. We can always make time and space for that. I call them movement snacks. And I will do them especially if I start to notice I'm getting rigid. As soon as I notice I'm starting to get rigid in my thoughts, getting rigid in my mind, I need a movement snack. I need to physically get up from the space that I'm in, go do something else. Sometimes it's like cleaning my house, but it's a movement snack nonetheless. It's a very utilitarian movement snack. And it's just the simple things. It's like the pattern interrupt, like break the pattern of the old story, just do something different quickly for a couple minutes, and then come back to the thing, come back to the project with more compassion, more awareness, more grace. Okay, beautifuls. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It's been absolutely amazing to see how many of you showed up live and getting to read about your experiences both on Instagram and on YouTube. And I'm just filled with love for you all. I just hope you all create a beautiful month ahead. And if you want to dive into any more of these things personally, I do have some space open in the coming weeks for one-on-one sessions. I also have a transit tracking subscription, which is like a personalized transit subscription that you can sign up for, where I'm just, going through all of the transits layered onto your chart. So kind of giving you your own like personal podcast, basically. That's all about you for the month ahead. So that's also something that's been really fun to do. And if you have any questions or you're watching this after the fact, definitely feel free to share your experience, share your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. I'm also planning to do more of these lives in an ongoing sense, maybe once a month. So if there's a specific theme, or if you love just general Q&A, let me know. Write me an email. You can email me anytime, info@nurarochelle.com, or through the contact form on my website, or on Instagram @NuraRochelle, or on YouTube, Nura Rochelle Astrology. So I try to keep it simple. You can find me at the same name everywhere. Okay, sending you all so much love. Happy Mercury Cazimi. And just go love yourself. Okay, bye.